Overnight, a single leak in Washington shut down 90% of Oregon's fuel supply. No refineries, just one lifeline, and it failed. How much did you pay for gas this week, and what's your personal panic price per gallon? Imagine waking up, driving to the gas station, and realizing that the invisible artery feeding almost all of Oregon's fuel has just been shut off. Overnight, a leak states away forces the pipeline operators to hit pause, and suddenly the stream that delivers most of the state's gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel goes quiet. One small rupture, huge consequences. For a system built on always on, silence is terrifying. One leak can freeze an entire state. Whenever you hear about infrastructure, not prices, making headlines, that's your cue to start watching your wallet. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Oregon doesn't refine its own fuel at all. Nearly every drop you pump is processed somewhere else, then pushed down a single main pipeline or hauled in by barge, rail, or truck. It looks normal on the surface, but under the hood, the system is fragile by design. Dependence is a risk, not just an inconvenience. If you want to understand your real exposure, learn where your state's gas actually comes from and how many routes can bring it in when one line fails. When people hear state of emergency, they picture price freezes, free gas, or some magic government switch that makes the pain disappear. That's not what actually happens. In reality, it's mostly a logistics unlock. Longer driving hours for truckers, fewer red tape steps for fuel carriers, faster permits, and temporary rule changes so fuel can move where it's needed quicker. It's a green light for flexibility, not a coupon code. An emergency order moves fuel, not fairy tale discounts. When you hear that phrase, don't expect gifts. Expect the system to just barely keep up. Once the main pipeline goes down, the backup plan kicks in. And that plan is pricey. Instead of one giant underground tube quietly pushing fuel across states, you suddenly need fleets of tanker trucks, rail cars, and barges to do the same job. More drivers, more hours, more insurance, more delays. Every extra hand that touches that fuel wants to get paid. Those added costs don't just vanish, they drip straight into the final price per gallon. Backup systems keep you supplied, but never for cheap. That's why we have alternatives doesn't mean we'll keep prices low. Now let's deal with the big question in the title. Are prices truly sky high, or are we reacting to the fear more than the numbers? In many cases like this, averages at the pump creep up by a few cents at first. Noticeable, annoying, but not yet catastrophic. What spikes is the anxiety. People see emergency plus pipeline leak and mentally jump straight to disaster levels. Fear usually moves faster than the price sign. Sometimes the panic costs more than the price increase. That's why you should track the actual numbers, not just the loudest headline. To understand why leaders panic so quickly now, you have to remember what happened when things really went wrong before. In a previous hit to the same system, it wasn't just a leak. It was pipeline issues stacked on refinery maintenance and seasonal fuel changes all at once. That combo punched the average price upward by dozens of cents in a matter of days. One problem hurts, three together explode. Gas prices go wild when crises stack, not when one thing breaks. So when officials see the first domino wobble, they rush to steady it before the rest can fall. This story isn't just about gas stations on the corner, it reaches all the way to the runway. That same fuel network also feeds airports with jet fuel, which means that a pipeline outage doesn't just threaten car owners, it threatens flights, delays, and airline schedules too. Now imagine that happening right before a big travel week with airports already packed and every seat sold. Even the hint of a fuel squeeze can send planners into overdrive. Your plane ticket depends on pipes you never see. When you hear about disruptions near major travel periods, expect turbulence on the ground before you ever feel it in the air. So did the governor actually panic? Or did she move early to avoid being blamed later? Politically, doing nothing while fuel supplies look shaky is a nightmare. Empty pumps and angry travelers make brutal headlines. Declaring an emergency, on the other hand, lets leaders say, "We acted fast, we took this seriously, we gave the system breathing room." It's part risk management, part reputation management. Real panic is when leaders wait too long. For you, the key is to see past the drama and ask, is this action about real danger or about making sure nobody gets caught looking asleep at the wheel? If you've ever pulled up to the pump, looked at the total, and thought, wait, how did it get this bad so fast? Then this is the kind of breakdown you need more of. I take the scary headlines, strip out the noise, and show you what actually hits your wallet and what doesn't. So if you want fewer panic scrolls and more calm decisions, tap like so this video reaches more people, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell. Don't just hear the news, learn to use it. And in the comments, tell me your state and what you're paying per gallon right now. Here's the sneaky part. You don't feel gas prices in a single fill-up, you feel them in your month. A $10 or $15 difference spread over a few trips quietly shoves your budget around. Suddenly there's less for groceries, subscriptions, or a night out. Businesses feel it too. Delivery drivers, small trucking companies, rideshare workers. Their higher costs become your higher prices. It's a chain reaction. You don't buy gas in isolation, you buy a more expensive life. Start tracking your total fuel spending each month, not just the price on the sign, so you can see the real impact and adjust early. Let's pull back the curtain on that number at the pump. It's not random, it's a stack. Crude oil costs at the top, then refining, then transportation and storage, then state and federal taxes, and finally the station's own margin to stay alive. A pipeline leak mainly hits the middle, distribution and sometimes margins, not necessarily the global oil price. Knowing that helps you decode what's happening. Price is a formula, not a mystery. When you hear news about refineries, taxes, or transport problems, you'll instantly know which piece of the formula is being messed with, and how worried you really should be. Not every jump in gas prices is a permanent scar. Some are just bruises. A short shock from a pipeline outage might sting for a week or two, then ease as supply reroutes and repairs finish. The deeper pain comes from long-term issues, high regional taxes, limited refinery capacity, strict fuel blend rules, and geography that makes everything harder to ship. Those are the forces that keep your prices stubbornly higher than the national average. Headlines end, structural problems linger. When you react, base your decisions on the long-term pattern in your area, not just the latest scare story. Whenever there's an emergency, price gouging starts trending, and for good reason. There are bad actors who see fear and try to cash in with ridiculous jumps that have nothing to do with real costs. But not every increase is a scam. Sometimes stations are just passing along higher wholesale prices or covering more expensive delivery routes. The key is knowing the difference. Not every ugly price tag is a crime. If you see a pump jump way beyond nearby stations or shoot up overnight without explanation, document it, keep receipts, and report it to your state's Consumer Protection Office. So what happens if the temporary outage stops being so temporary? That's when the backup plans get stretched thin. Truckers and barges can only move so much for so long before overtime, bottlenecks, and sheer fatigue kick in. Wholesale prices may climb, and certain areas could see sporadic shortages or more dramatic spikes. It's not just inconvenient, it's stressful. You can't control the repair timeline, but you can control your response. The moment you hear that an outage might drag on, tighten your driving, combine errands, and plan your budget as if prices will go higher before they settle. Final disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only and is not professional financial, legal, or policy advice. Always consult a qualified expert before making major financial, legal, or policy-related decisions.